We hear about incidents all the time. You turn the news on, you're going to hear about something going on somewhere across the country and increasingly the world. We know that there are things that we can do to prevent things like mass casualty events, mass shootings from happening. And one of the biggest ways that we're accomplishing this is through behavioral threat assessment and management, otherwise called threat management. I'm joined today with a Kentucky colonel and a master at threat management to talk about the nuances of this critical capability that organizations can implement, and joined by Corey Staley, a Call of Duty character. If you don't see him in the game, go in, get that patch. You know you want to be his character. He's a sniper. It's unbelievable, everybody. So guys, let's talk about this. BTAM. Preventing targeted intentional violence. What do organizations need to think about? What is it in the first place? How do we get ahead of these kinds of issues in our society?
Well, I think right now what we're seeing is finally a move away from response to prevention. And BTAM is a great way to get around that idea that nobody snaps, that nobody just gets up one day and goes postal, as we talk about. That there really is an understandable process. And if we can understand it, we can prevent it. And so as I'm out there talking to companies and organizations, you know, who want to talk about guards and security systems and cameras and stuff, we have to constantly remind them that we don't have to do all that. That has a role, but prevention, really identifying people that are on the pathway to violence, that are potentially acting in a way that would identify them as a potential threat to the organization, that we can get those people off ramp, get those people help, or get the interventions in place before violence happens, so that we're not relying on all these other physical security aspects to keep us safe.
Yeah, I mean, talk a little bit about the difference between something like this and risk assessment, Jameson, because, you know, people are fairly common with the concept of actuarial tables and, you know, extreme weather events and all of the things, but this is quite a bit different.
Yeah, this is what, you know, the way I explain it in front of groups is, this is if somebody's showing signs that are unusual, so whether it's a client, a customer, somebody outside the organization, or even inside, another employee, they usually go through an observable sequence of changes in behavior, demeanor, performance, all the way up to direct threats and violence. And if we can teach people how to look for things like that, it was kind of back, you know, post 9/11, we said, see something, say something. This is the more evolved version of that, is we need to get out there and teach people what to look for, and then create those pathways, create those mechanisms so people are comfortable reporting, and that companies are ready to take those reports and actually do something about them. And that's what we try to do in BTAM, is we try to get these organizations better spun up to do all of those things, for intake, assessment, manage, and then ultimately see if their interventions are working and if they need to change tactics, really.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting. You know, you get into like any case study of any event that's happened, you know, after, you know, 6 months have passed, 12 months have passed, they've really kind of dug into, okay, what were all the events leading up to this particular case? Man, you could just sit there and go down the line. Like, here's 30 times where something happened where somebody's like, oh, if obviously that was out of place. Obviously that was not normal. If only somebody would have said something, which kind of leads you to believe, and maybe it's a bold statement, like, it seems as though 90% of this stuff could be prevented if somebody would have been like, that's not normal and I need to say something. Mm-hmm. It really, I mean, that's oversimplifying it to an extent, but and maybe it's not. It's all those observable behaviors going unrecognized, and what seems insignificant at the time, you know, okay, just because it's not a target of violence, just because it's not a mass shooting, maybe it's just, you know, an outburst, a verbal outburst that someone's having. Like, okay, well, that's a sign that they're on the path to something, potentially. Yeah, so much of it could be prevented, and I think that's what people don't realize.
And there's even kind of this mystique with it too. You know, we call it a threat management team that does this work, or we call it behavioral threat assessment and management. And, you know, I think, you know, sometimes people do have that hesitancy to report and raise those concerns, but in reality, it couldn't be further from the truth that this program, while it sounds a little bit mysterious, it's actually designed to be a de-escalatory, non-punitive capability that helps people not find violence as the answer. It's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, if people got better and more comfortable at reporting early on, see, what we're trying to do is capture these folks when they're still early in the process, identifying maybe they're in crisis, maybe it's a mental health thing, maybe it's personal stressors. I mean, the FBI says in all the active assailant research that they did that the average mass shooter goes through 3 or 4 personal crises or stressors within a year before they're shooting. Now, we don't want it to get that far, but if we get better at capturing some of this unusual stuff early, it's actually the compassionate route. We're not trying to hammer people, trying to get people in trouble. We're not trying to get people arrested. It's quite the opposite. We're trying to find somebody, you know, we'll use the example, Jake's going through a crisis. Maybe it's at home, has nothing to do with work.
Happens pretty regular, everybody.
Right. Try to get you off that pathway by getting you the stabilization and support and resources, whatever it is we can offer to help make the chance that you're going to look at violence as a potential solve or fix to what you're going through. It's a mind shift right now because most people say, well, I understand workplace violence. It's you threaten me, I'm going to kill you, or you actually assault or try to hurt me. Well, that's the low-hanging fruit, but there's a whole trail of stuff happening for months, even years ahead of time that if we get better around teaching people to look for and capturing, we can get our own people help before they become a risk to us.
Or just being willing to say something. I think so often people, you know, after the fact, like, well, I didn't want to get myself involved, and like that's their personal life. I don't want to get myself involved. Like they're having some issues, they're having some mental problems, or having whatever's going on at their house, because maybe it is actually a personal problem, not a professional problem that they don't want to get involved in. So they don't speak up, even though they do see something, they just don't speak up.
So this capability, I mean, threat management has been around actually quite a long time, but it seems like in these past several years, it's starting to actually take hold societally, even globally. The expertise and the skill set is becoming more widely known. If you guys had to give one piece of advice or one tip to people watching this video, how to get started in this space, what would you guys say?
I mean, for me, I'd connect with somebody who does the work and just ask questions, you know, get in the room with people who do this every day to understand. We can slay some dragons pretty early. You know, people snap, there's nothing we can do. If we can slay some of those dragons early, I think we can make a difference. The other thing is I'm a big proponent of ATAP, the Association of Threat Assessment Professionals. So if you're even peripherally involved in this type of conversation, there's a lot of great resources there. It's a great, really impactful community to get connected with of folks who are having these type of conversations every day, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely important, as you know, Jameson does a lot of the team training, getting those folks together and train them how to actually assess and manage it. I think maybe from a slightly different angle too, I think it's extremely important because I believe that you can have the best threat management team in the world. You can have all the resources to make all this stuff happen and manage a threat really well. But if the general population doesn't know those behaviors to be looking for, they don't know who to report it to. Like you can have an extremely well-trained threat management team, but the frontline folks, like they don't know what they're looking for. They don't know who to say something to, or they're not willing to. It kind of makes a point void. But
Yeah, I love the fact that for those organizations that haven't really gone down this road yet, and this is kind of those that we get to work with pretty commonly, where they're starting on this journey to build a threat management team, to create this capability. I love the fact that it's intentional, that it's a dedicated capability, that when somebody is struggling, there's a measured process to be able to identify what the specific things that might be appropriate for that individual to de-escalate from whatever progression they might be on, to get the help that they need, to get back into this progression of hopefully carrying on with their lives and, you know, kind of regaining their stability. I love that it's individualized in that respect. And I love that it's a capability that organizations can implement to really impact the safety and security of their people, you know, throughout their organization.
And I think if you're on the subject, and I'm going to shift this over to you, Jameson, but like it's so important to acknowledge that it has to be a multidisciplinary team. Like this is not your security person running your threat management team, and I'm sure you'll be able to elaborate much more on it. But having that perspective from, you know, your human resources, your legal department, communications, like everybody coming in collectively to know and be able to build that entire picture to include your executive team is so significant on that team's capability.
Yeah, I mean, having a multidisciplinary lens is just unbelievably important. I mean, look at me. If I come to a team, and when I was leading threat management teams, you know, I come from a law enforcement and military background. I come from a corporate security background. And like anybody else, I bring my own lens to that particular issue. So if every problem is solved with a corporate security lens, we're going to have problems. I need HR, I need legal, I need folks from leadership, I need operational folks, depending on the type of business or type of organization, to lend their ear, because I don't know what HR does full time. And I certainly can't pretend to understand the legal outcomes of some of the things we're trying to work on. But when you put those folks together in the room, you give them great training on what threat assessment is and what it isn't, and let them work through these problems. It's not we've said this before. This isn't, when we use the term zero tolerance, that assumes that there's a one size fits all version. I get a report, somebody gets fired. Number one, that works against us. And number two is that all these cases are so different, as you were saying before, that we're dealing with individuals. So every case has to be handled individually. Very unique way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a wonderful way to make sure that we are maintaining that safe, respectful workplace, you know, having the ability for people to not have to have the concern about the potential for violence, to be able to invest themselves into their work. I mean, it goes even in that respect back to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? You hit that safety and security piece. Well, I can't think of a better way to really help an organization be able to show, here's how we're doing this for you as employees. But you know what, folks? I mean, if you're seeing this video and this is not something you built in for your organization, or this is a capability that maybe you've not heard of, do a quick Google search, behavioral threat assessment and management, or of course, reach out to us. We would love to help you demystify what this capability is and help you implement this for your organization. It's pivotal for addressing potential targeted intentional violence. If you want more information like this, I encourage you to subscribe to our Centerfold newsletter. Go to cpps.com. You'll see the prompt at the bottom of the page, or you can see if they're the description or the comments, whatever it takes. Stay in touch with us, because this is the kind of content we're going to continue to bring to you so that you can stay on top of the issues like violence, travel risk management, whatever it is. Anyways, thanks for watching on this one. Catch you in the next one. Cheers.